The marketplace of Kepler Station buzzed with the usual cacophony of interstellar commerce. Vendors from a dozen different species hawked their wares beneath the artificial aurora that danced across the dome ceiling. The air was thick with the scent of exotic spices, ozone from plasma tools, and the metallic tang of recycled atmosphere. Zekdar moved through the crowd like a shadow given form. The Yalta warrior's mandibles clicked softly as thermal vision swept across a sea of alien faces. Each species registered in familiar heat signatures, the cold-blooded saurians barely visible against the cooler backdrop. The warm-blooded Altarians glowing amber in the predator's enhanced sight, the crystalline vorthic emanating their distinctive geometric heat patterns. The hunt had brought Zekdara here. Word had spread through the underground networks of a particularly dangerous criminal who had been terrorizing the outer rim colonies. A killer who showed no discrimination between species, no honor in combat, no mercy for the innocent. The kind of prey that would make for a worthy trophy. Zekdar's risk computer chimed softly, displaying the target's last known biometric data. The thermal signature was unlike anything in the Predator's extensive database, a strange, irregular heat pattern that seemed to fluctuate in ways that defy conventional physiology. The criminal was said to be adaptable, unpredictable, and impossibly resourceful. Perfect quarry for an elite hunter. The crowd parted instinctively as Zekdara's massive form moved through the marketplace. Even without the active camouflage engaged, the Predator's presence commanded respect and fear. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, with a biomask that resembled a metallic skull and shoulder-mounted plasma cannons gleaming in the artificial light, Zekdar was the apex of hunting evolution. A disturbance near the eastern section of the market caught the Predator's attention. Vendors were scattering, their wares abandoned as screams echoed off the dome's walls. Zekdar's mandibles spread in what might have been anticipation. The hunt was about to begin. Moving with surprising grace for such a large being, Zekdara arrived at the scene to find chaos. 3 Altarian security officers lay motionless on the deck plating, their weapons scattered and useless. Other aliens cowered behind overturned stalls, their universal translators struggling to process the babel of terrified voices. That's when Zekdara saw the target. The figure stood in the center of the cleared space, and the Predator's thermal vision struggled to maintain a lock. The heat signature was indeed strange, not the steady glow of most warm-blooded species, but something that seemed to pulse and shift as if the being's very metabolism was adapting in real time to its environment. But it wasn't the unusual thermal reading that made Zekdar freeze. It was recognition. The target was human. Zekdar had encountered humans before. Of course, the species had a reputation throughout the galaxy that preceded them wherever they went. They were known as the ones who had turned first contact into first blood with 3 different species before finally achieving peaceful relations. The ones who had survived the Zephyrian plague through sheer stubborn refusal to die. The ones who had somehow convinced the warlike Korthax to join their alliance through what the humans called aggressive diplomacy. But this human was different. Where most humans radiated a steady warmth that spoke of regulated body temperature and controlled metabolism, this one's heat signature writhed and shifted like liquid fire. The human's posture spoke of coiled violence, barely contained, and there was something in the way it held itself that triggered every predatory instinct Zekdar possessed. The human turned, and through the biomask's enhanced vision, Zekdar could see the being's face clearly. Scars crisscrossed pale skin like a roadmap of violence survived. But it was the eyes that made the Predator's breath catch in something that might have been respect or might have been the first stirring of actual fear. Those eyes held the kind of cold calculation that Zekdar recognized from looking in reflective surfaces. They were the eyes of something that had killed not just for survival, but for the pure, simple reason that killing was what it did best. The human's lips curved in what other species might mistake for a smile, but Zekdar knew better. It was the expression a predator wore when it realized it was no longer alone at the top of the food chain. For several heartbeats, hunter and hunted regarded each other across the scattered marketplace. The other aliens seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere, their panicked flight taking on new urgency as they realized they had become potential collateral damage in whatever was about to unfold. Deliberately, Zekthara's wrist blades extended with their characteristic metallic whisper. The human's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed far too sharp for a supposedly evolved species. "Been a while since someone was stupid enough to hunt me," the human said, voice carrying easily across the suddenly silent marketplace. Words were spoken in perfect Yaltia, with inflections that spoke of deep cultural understanding. "Tell me, Hunter, do you know what happened to the last 3 who tried?" Zekthara's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. The Predator's shoulder cannons powered up with a high-pitched whine, targeting lasers painting crimson. Dots across the human's chest. But then something unprecedented happened. The human's heat signature suddenly spiked, temperature readings climbing far beyond what should have been survivable for any carbon-based life form. The targeting system began to flutter, unable to maintain a lock on something that was rewriting its own biometric profile in real time. For the first time in a hunting career spanning 3 decades, Zekthara felt something that had been absent for so long it took a moment to identify. Uncertainty. The human took a step forward, and the deck, plating beneath their feet, actually began to smoke. "Your move, Hunter, but choose wisely. Humans don't just adapt to survive, we adapt to win. And I've been winning for a very long time." As Zekthara watched, the human's thermal signature continued to climb, approaching levels that should have been instantly fatal. But instead of dying, the being seemed to be thriving, feeding off its own impossibly elevated metabolism. The Predator realized with growing fascination that this wasn't just another hunt. This was evolution in action. And, for the first time, Zekthara wasn't certain which species would prove more adaptable,